But it was the State of the Union, and Joe Biden came out fired up, and it was a phenomenal speech. And people might just be thinking, well, you're a liberal or Democrat, you're going to say he was awesome no matter what. Here's a few things that I feel like I am not saying this just as a liberal Democrat. First of all, the right, they were saying, not that it was a great speech,
right,
but they were saying how forceful he was, how jacked up he was, as Sean Hannity called him, Jacked Up Joe, which I'm not really sure why he thinks that is a bad nickname. It sounds kind of like a badass nickname. I'm not sure where, but what did you think of the speech? What did you think when you were, so I assume you watched it live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what were your thoughts as you were watching it?
So there were some key takeaways for me.
Mm-hmm. And I've got some too.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You want to share yours first?
No. I want you to go first.
Okay. So my key takeaways, like, of course, he did great. Fired up. I mean, for Joe, he was, but it was what he said is, it wasn't about his energy. It was just what he said. And a couple of things, but one thing in particular, he said, and this is not verbatim because I'm not going to remember, but he mentioned America's ideals, equity, equality, diversity. He mentioned all of these ideals, and he said that America has not lived up to those ideals, but America has not walked away either.
Right.
And that's so dope, because that means he's listening. Yeah. He knows. He's not going to say America's not a racist country. Like, he understands that we've made some strides, but America can't be out here boasting like, oh, we're not racist here. We got everything. We're diverse. He knows that we can't say that. We have not lived up to what we're supposed to be. That what is it? What's the beacon of whatever? What is it called? The beacon of, what do we call it?
You're not talking about the shining light on the hill, or
that what we're supposed to be? Like, America's just supposed to be like that place?
Yeah.
But we're not living up to it. So that was like really big. And also, I'll let you chime in, but I'll just take over the show. Now, and the next thing is that you're going to say the same thing. It's like the contrast. It was so freaking apparent. If you were a Republican, you got upset with Biden about this speech, you just wanted to be upset.
Correct.
Just because.
Well, they were going to regardless. It didn't matter what he said.
Right. Because he's going, yeah, we're trying to expand tutoring, get children reading by the 3rd grade, give teachers raises, Democrats, yay! Republicans sitting on their hands.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? You don't want 3rd graders to read? Like, I love the interactive Joe Biden, right? Because there was nothing that all the good things he celebrated, they couldn't clap because the Big Daddy Rape-A-Lot said you better not clap.
Right. Yep.
Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. So I was watching it, and I like to write down my takeaways as I'm watching it, because I'm curious to see if anything that I think is reflective of what, others may think, or if it's completely different. And I found a lot of it was reflective. The first thing is, and I don't know how many people have made this point, but I think it might be time to lose this idea that we or anybody else should be anxious because Joe Biden's speaking. We're afraid that he's going to say something wrong. That guy was in control of that room the entire night. He was daring. I mean, literally daring the Republicans to speak out and act like fucking assholes and do the dumb shit that they normally do. And when they did, he'll look directly at them with absolutely no hesitation, speak right to them, because he's not afraid of them. Because first of all, he knows he's in a room full of either dummies or people who are afraid of Donald Trump, and they know they have to go along with this crazy program. that he has. That's one of the first takeaways that I came away with, and that his message was direct and clear. Now, was he perfect throughout the whole speech? A couple times in the middle, he was, he got a little bit off, but for the most part, the entire speech was very, very good, very direct. The second thing is Marjorie Taylor Greene's a fucking disgrace to this country. She's a disgrace to Congress. She's a disgrace to this country. She's a disgrace really to the human fucking race. I can't stand this woman. I cannot stand her. She went to that thing as if she was going to a high school. Like she's just like a mean girl in high school.
Yeah.
Dressed like a fucking fool. Now, one thing I did not say, I did see somebody say this. It was pretty funny. It looked like she was dressed from KKKIF Fridays, wearing her flare and her, that was pretty funny. But this woman is a disgrace. And anybody that takes her seriously or the party that she's involved with seriously, I don't take seriously. And there's a few things I want to say about that too. The other thing, Republicans, they're in complete disarray. You could tell, and Lana alluded to this a little bit. Mike Johnson looked as uncomfortable and out of place as anybody I've ever seen in the history of me watching these State of the Union addresses. He almost didn't know when to clap. He didn't know when to, he knew when to shake his head. He knew daddy was watching.
J6.
Yep. No. Oh, he's bringing that up.
It didn't happen.
Shucks.
He's like,
yeah.
Are you saying that this didn't happen?
Yep. And in contrast, the woman sitting next to him, Kamala Harris, looked as confident and where she belonged as anybody else I've ever seen. She looked with confidence. You can almost tell Mike Johnson was uncomfortable sitting next to her because she was sitting in a place where she felt like she belonged there. He absolutely did not belong where he was.
Right. Because if he clapped at the wrong thing, they're going to vote to have him removed.
Correct.
It's like, I can't even clap for friggin' what was it? Infrastructure. And I love how Joe Biden goes, oh, you didn't want the money?
Correct. Well, how about they didn't want to clap for curing cancer?
Yeah, curing cancer. Lessening the cost of prescriptions, for capping cost of prescriptions for our seniors. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. And the last takeaway that I have from that is because of that, I think you saw the Republicans' reactions on some of these things that are very popular throughout the country. And I think you're going to see a shift here the next week or two in the polls. You're going to see a shift in Biden's approval rating. Not that it's going to go through the roof, but any increase 2, 3, 4, 5 points is going to make a huge difference in this election. And I think Joe Biden did everything he needed to get anybody that might have been either on the fence or bought into the right-wing propaganda that he is senile or that he's just letting immigrants in or whatever it is that they believe. I think the people that are not MAGA, it doesn't even matter. I don't care about their opinion, but the ones who are still on the fence, whatever. I think he did a good job of probably winning them over. And I think from this point on, he's going to step on the gas and we're really going to see why there's no other choice here. Not that we didn't know this already, but there are people out there trying to still figure out between the two.
Right. They said it's fundraising. He broke fundraising records at 9, and then at 10 o'clock, they broke that 9 o'clock fundraising goal.
$10 million he raised just in the time between the State of the Union and the next day, I think it was, or it was a couple days, whatever it was. $10 million they raised. And you and I have talked about this. They continue to break records in fundraising, which tells me that you have a large amount of people in this country that are not just excited about voting for Joe Biden, but they are desperate for this guy to win.
Right. And just back to, everyone, just back to his speech. And I think what he did, you know, how we always say that Obama is like the unifier.
Yeah.
He gave us some of that, right?
Yes.
At the end of his speech was so uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
It was so like, you know, and I'm not this big, you know, the presidency, United States. Oh my God, I love it so much. Like I'm not,
Right.
I'm just not. However, listening to that, it did inspire you because he did hear you. He talked about he tried to hit, you know, everything.
Yep.
You know, here is you mentioned how disgusting Marjorie Taylor Green is. We can't not talk about how they're using that poor woman that was murdered in Georgia as one of their political pawns. It's like she has Marjorie Taylor Green has on a t-shirt that says say her name, which is appropriated from police brutality against Black women. So that alone is like not minimizing what happened to
Laken Riley.
Right. But she's commingling the two, and that's disgusting.
They use it with Ashley Babbitt too, by the way.
Right. That's equally disgusting. It's like you don't care about Laken Riley, and it's baffling to me how Laken Riley's parents are like, keep my kid's name out of your mouth. I don't want anyone to talk about my kid right now.
Oh no, they're with him and he's signing autographs on her picture and they're smiling, taking pictures with him. It is bizarre.
It's disgusting.
It really is. Yeah. And I am willing to bet anything that I own that if it was a secret conversation and they asked Donald Trump, they'd say, Donald, would you take another Laken Riley story in this country right now to help boost your, you know, ridiculous claim that immigrants are coming in here, which, by the way, is something we're going to touch on here a little bit later. But I truly believe Donald Trump will welcome as many Laken Riley stories as possible right now.
Which is ridiculous because
it's sickening is what it is.
I didn't hear Republicans talk about those, was it 3 or 4 college students that were murdered by the white guy?
No, they won't.
In their dorm? Nope. That happened, right? Yep. Like equally horrific.
No question.
But we're not having a whole big, no one's putting their names on their shirts.
Correct.
Because we can't connect it to anything political. It's like, it's a white guy, shucks. Give us one with an immigrant. Like that's how Republicans are. It's just
But, you know, there's a million different T-shirts that they can print up with, you know, the in-house population, specifically white people that have murdered many people, and there's many T-shirts they can print up. But you notice they only print up the one that they found as an antidote that happened in Atlanta. And obviously it's a tragedy and we don't want any of that stuff to happen. It is just an awful, awful story, but it is not indicative of, you know, what happens with immigrants. And again, that's something I'm going to talk about and touch on in a little bit.